Before we get started, I wanted to just make a couple of notes. One of them is that we have a state champion in our midst. And Julius over there. Yeah, there he is. Y'all make sure to congratulate him. Yeah, that was a good smile. So we also have had two birthdays yesterday. If I missed someone, I'm sorry, but one of them was really important because it's my son yesterday. So y'all make sure to tell him happy late birthday. But also, I don't know how I forgot this, Caitlin, that y'all share a birthday. So also, it's Caitlin's birthday was yesterday. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention that y'all should congratulate Haley because she has put up with me for 12 years. All right? So with that being said, something we did talk about, I needed to hit just real fast. We do have the kids' summer trips coming up, and we need those order forms back pretty soon. And so if you have kiddos that would like to participate, even if it's just in one or two trips, please get a hold of her. We have sign-up sheets. We really just need to order the shirts. And so we would love for your kids to participate in that. So we have been looking at what it means to thrive. Because I do believe, kind of like the song, right? We were made for more. We weren't made just to survive. We were made to thrive. We're made not. I am not.
There you go.
There I am. Woo. All right. We're meant to thrive, guys. God wants more for us than just being here on Sunday morning. He wants more for us than just what's going to happen at the end of our life. He wants us to thrive where we are. And so we've looked at what it means to thrive in the unknown, right? This idea that we have two options. We either operate out of fear or we step out in faith. That's our options. We talked about hardship. And I think we all know this. Our attitude when things get tough is everything. Because if we have a bad attitude, then I don't think we're going to honor God in our decisions. And then last week we talked about direction. And I truly believe God has a purpose for each one of you in His church. He has a calling. He wants you to be doing something. And sometimes it's hard to know what that is, but you have a purpose and what it means to thrive in that direction. To listen to God when you have that tug in your heart, actually stepping out and doing it. When you have that little question in your head maybe I should do this, just go for it. Today we're going to be looking at Ruth. And so to give y'all a little bit of background, we're going to look at the entire story of Ruth, but obviously we're going to summarize a little bit of it because otherwise we would be here for way too long. And I know y'all probably have lunch reservations to celebrate the moms in the room. And so in Ruth chapter 1, we're introduced to Ruth and Naomi and her sister-in-law as well. And what ends up happening is Naomi and her family had moved off, and her sons had married Moabites. Now, if y'all don't know, that's a bit of a problem. Because as Israelites, what were they supposed to do? They weren't supposed to marry any of the other nations, okay? They weren't supposed to intermarry because that could cause problems. But here we have it. The story begins in a place that's maybe not the best. And so Naomi's husband dies, her sons die, and she decides, it's time, I got to leave. I got to go home. I got to go where things are familiar. And so she tells her two daughter-in-laws, go back to your families. Leave me, it's fine, go back to your families. And if you're familiar with the story of Ruth, what does Ruth say? No, right? It's that famous line that we use in weddings, which, it's a good line, but it's kind of strange that that's not the context, but right, where you go, I'll go, where you stay, I'll stay. Right? All of that. And so Ruth travels back. And we're going to pick up in Ruth chapter 2, starting in verse 4. So just then, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." And they answered, "The Lord bless you." And then Boaz said to his servants, "Who was in charge of the reapers? To whom does this young woman belong?" And so to give you context, we kind of skipped a little bit, but Ruth, the thing that they would do, seeing that they had no husbands, right? She had no father-in-law, they would go out in the fields. Right? They would go out in the fields, and there was a rule, right? God had established the law, and part of the law was that you weren't supposed to go back and pick up what you dropped while you were harvesting, right? Now, it makes good economic sense to go back and get everything, right? That's how you do it. And yet, well, it was left on the ground. It was left so that those who didn't have could go and pick up. Have you ever, I don't know, I don't think you would make much money off of it. Have you all ever looked, after cotton, harvesting cotton, and it's just like the field of snow is still out there on the ground, right? It just leaves behind stuff. And I've always wondered, well, how much you could make. I'm sure someone could tell me in this room. It wouldn't be much. But going back and picking all that up. But that's kind of the idea here, right? The stuff was left on the ground. It wasn't a lot. You would have to work hard, but that's how you provided. And so Ruth, not only was Ruth willing to go back with Naomi, Ruth was willing to go to work, right? Ruth was willing to work. So he says, "To whom does this young woman belong?" And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, "She is the Moabite who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. She said, 'Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the reapers.' So she came, and she has been on her feet from early this morning until now, without resting even for a moment." Man. Have y'all been at that place before? Have you been at the place where you're working nonstop just to make it? I think a lot of people in this room have been there. This is where Ruth is. They have nothing. She's working in a place of desperation, right? Just trying to make ends meet. Now, I told y'all sometime I like asking questions, and I actually like y'all to answer. So here we go. Are y'all ready? How does it feel to be in that position? How does it feel to be in a position where, you're working and working, and you're just trying to scrape by? Hopeless? Frustrating? Tiring? Exhausting? Yep, there's my son. Angry. I'm glad you're listening, kid. I'm glad you're listening. Now here's another question, and this is, I don't want y'all to answer out loud. If you've been there before, were you open about it? Did you talk to other people about being in that position? Because I'm going to guess, and I might be wrong here, okay? I'm okay to admit it. The majority of us that have been in that position, when we're in that place, that is not something that we talk about. Right? That is matters for the family, right? It's not matters for the kids. It's something that you keep behind closed doors. Let's keep reading. Then Boaz said to Ruth, this is verse 8, "Now listen, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Keep your eyes on the field that is being reaped and follow behind them. I have ordered the young men not to bother you. If you get thirsty, go to the vessel and drink from what the young men have drawn." I want to stop real fast. I ask if we talk about things like that. What would have happened if Ruth didn't swallow her pride in this situation? Because, the situation begins, she comes to the person who's in charge of reaping, and what does she say? She says, "Please let me do this. Please let me follow behind." What happens if she hadn't done that? What happens if she decides, yeah, I'm gonna figure it out? Do you think she would have made it? Guys, I think the story might look a little different, wouldn't it? In fact, we probably wouldn't be reading the story. This is verse 10. Then she fell prostrate with her face to the ground and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your sight, that you should take notice of me, when I'm a foreigner?" But Boaz answered her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. May the Lord reward you for your deeds. And may you have full reward from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge." I want to read that one more time. May the Lord reward you for your deeds, and may you have a full reward from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. I really don't like bringing language up too often. It kind of gets a little technical, but there's something really important that's going on here that I want us to pay attention to. And there's one word I want to throw out there, and it's kanaf, okay? Can y'all say it with me? Kanaf. There it is. All right. So kanaf, in Hebrew, a word can mean a lot of things and just be one word, much more than like in English. And in this context, especially speaking about God, it's the word for wings. Okay, so he says, under whose kanaf, right, under whose wings you have come for refuge. See, the people of Israel often view God as having wings, if not literally, in the sense that is what covers them. If you look at the cherubim, right, they're these winged creatures that are covering over. And to put it in context for us, don't we say things like, may God wrap his arms around you? It's the same concept, right? It's the same thing. He's saying, you've looked for refuge, whose arms are wrapping around you. So we're going to pause in the story real quick. I want to tell y'all one of my personal experiences. It's a doozy. So it wasn't this trip. Haley just got back from a trip to Phoenix, but it was her last one where she had to go to Las Vegas for was it that one or Houston? I don't remember. It was Houston. Sorry, she's been gone a lot recently. She had gone to Houston for continued education for her license for counseling. And, I think I do okay when I'm by myself with my children. I try really hard. And so there we are. Everything's going great. Emily didn't really want to eat dinner, but that's okay. You know what? It's about to be time. Do y'all ever do this? You're like, I just got to make it until 7. I just got to make it until 8, right? That's me. Sometimes every night, I'm like, Lord, give me the patience and the strength to make it to 7 o'clock when I put my child to bed. I love her, but I'm exhausted, right? And so this is where I am. It's like, I don't know, I think it's like 6:45. And I'm like, praise the Lord, I have 15 minutes. 15 minutes, and then it's all going to be good. And so, being that it was so close, I was FaceTiming Haley. And so I was letting the kids talk to her, and lo and behold, Emily just throws up everywhere. I mean, absolutely out of nowhere. And I'm sitting there just stunned. My phone was on the ground, and Emily was sitting in my lap, and everything just went all over the phone. I mean, just okay, so I'll get the idea. Here I am, covered in throw up. My child is covered in throw up. The floor, and then also my phone, right? And I'm in a moment, right? Have you all ever been in those moments that you just almost freeze because you don't exactly know what to do? Like there's too many things to get done, and you're just like, ah. Don't worry, we'll finish that in a minute. There's a good ending to that one. So Ruth swallows her pride, right? She starts working for Boaz. Not working for, that's incorrect. Working in the field of Boaz. And Boaz, he instructs the young men to purposefully drop more than what they would just as they're harvesting. And so at the end of the day, the first day, she goes home with several weeks' worth of food and a single day's work. That's provision, right? That's provision. And what's crazy is she goes home with several weeks' worth of food, but then she goes back and she does it again and again and again. And now, any guesses for how long about the harvest was? It's about 2 months. About 2 months, so it's 6 to 8 weeks. So every day she's going, the young men are dropping extra, and she's gathering and gathering and gathering. I mean, if you want to do the math, by the end of that time, she would have had enough to take care of them for the year, right? But then, Naomi figures out who she has been working, at whose field she's been working at, right? She figures out it's Boaz. And they have this kind of odd custom that what's called the Redeemer, the kinsman Redeemer. And in this culture, for a woman not to be married was a problem because that means they didn't have a means to be taken care of. And so this kinsman Redeemer, the idea behind it is one, for the family to be taken care of, for the woman to be taken care of by someone that was related to the person who had passed. But it's also so that that family line could continue. Because the children that they had, right, the sons that they had would be, I guess, given the name, I don't know how you would say it, like ours would be like given the last name of the person who had passed, right? They would carry on the family line. They would continue with with that. And so she has this scheme. And she tells Ruth, get clean, get dressed up, and you're going to go to Boaz. And so she does. Let's pick up. We're going to pick up in, 7. Chapter 3, verse 7. Actually, we'll do 6. So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had instructed her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk, and he was in a contented mood, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came stealthily and uncovered his feet and lay down. And at midnight, the man was startled, turned over, and there lying at his feet was a woman. We read that, I mean, there's an exclamation point. So I think we kind of missed the context. In their culture, there was a female demon that came at midnight and would kill men. Okay, it went by the name of Lilith, and so he wakes up at midnight, and lo and behold, what is there but a woman? But after he kind of collects himself, this is verse 9. He says, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak over your servant, for you are next of kin." Y'all want to guess what word pops up again? Do y'all remember it? Kanaf. Ah, there we are. Kanaf. Kanaf. I told y'all it can mean a lot of things. Depends on the context. It says, "I am Ruth, spread your servant, spread your kanaf over your servant, for you our next of kin. Why does it matter that she said it that way? You know, I think we read this story, and it's an amazing story. And a lot of attention gets given to Boaz, because, Boaz is a pretty solid dude. If you want to, young men, if you want to look at someone and be like, what do I aspire to be? Boaz is a down-to-earth, good guy. But back in chapter 2, Boaz says something that's important. He says, may God bless you, the one whose wings you have come for a refuge. Guys, who are the wings of refuge for Ruth? It's Boaz, right? It's Boaz. Boaz says this, may the Lord bless you, give you refuge, and guess who is that refuge? It's Boaz. The very thing that Boaz asked for came to fruition. It came to pass because of the actions of Boaz. Guys, when we need something, how often do we actually name it? When we really need something, how often do we actually tell someone that we need it? Or do we do the whole thing of, I'm just going to figure it out? Because I think most of the time what we do is we say, no, I will figure it out. I'm just going to figure it out. It'll be okay. We like to seem like we're put together, don't we? We like to seem like we have it all put together, and we don't have problems. We don't need anything from anyone. We can do this on our own. As a dad, one of the things that I really hate is feeling like the dumb dad. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? The dad who just doesn't know better, the dad who doesn't know how to care for his children or doesn't know how to give a bath. I'm not gonna lie, I hate giving baths to my children because it stresses me out. This is the stuff that sticks with me. Especially when we have our children in daycare and they ask me a question and I'm just like, I don't know. Right? I hate that. And another aspect, too, of y'all that y'all may not know, some of you probably do. I know Sally knows this. I like to wash my hands. I like to stay clean, right? But something that really gets me, I'm hoping y'all don't use this against me, okay? I do not handle throw up well, all right? I don't. It's not just what's on the floor. It's the idea that I'm going to get sick too, right? That it's going to pass on to me. So I had this moment with Emily. Josiah's sitting over there like, did she throw up? And I'm like, yes, son, yes. Trying to get him out of the way. But I had this moment where I could have tried to act like I had it together. Because the thing I hate the most as a dad is feeling like I'm inadequate. Feeling like I can't take care of my kids. So I could have done that. I could have struggled through. Mentally, probably not been okay, because honestly, it may sound stupid. We all have things that cause us anxiety, okay? So that's one of my major ones, guys. It causes real anxiety in me. I get fixated. And I could have just pulled myself up, got everything done, and it would have been done. I'd have been less okay. But in that moment, I remember I tell Haley, I said, call Luann. My phone wasn't working anymore. Nothing was working on it, but she could still hear me partially. And I called Luann. I know Pam came over that night also, because it was everywhere. It was a mess. I could have acted like I had it all together. But I'll tell y'all, the night was way better having help. Way better. I was able to get Josiah to bed, right? I was able to take care of myself a little bit. And I was able to give Emily the attention that she needed. And you know why it happened? Because I asked for help. So we've been talking about thriving. And that's kind of a silly little story, but to thrive in God's community, it takes recognizing what we need, swallowing our pride, and actually naming it to someone, to our community. I'm not saying that's easy, y'all. That takes vulnerability, doesn't it? It's not easy to say that we need something. It may be something like, I need you to come help clean my child because she threw up everywhere. But there's a lot of other things that we need, aren't there? We need support. Actually, just this last Wednesday, I asked the students, what do you need from the church? What do you need? And they named things like support. They need attention. They need someone to help teach them. They need encouragement, right? But here's the thing, the teenagers name these things. Aren't those all things that we need? Isn't it? Don't we all need encouragement? Don't we all need someone to come and walk by us when things are tough? And pride is the biggest downfall of the church. Pride destroys communities. And if we want to thrive, if we want our community here to thrive, we have to swallow our pride. And we have to admit that we need something from each other. And then there's the flip side. Because it also requires us to realize that we are the means of God's provisions and refuge for other people. I'm going to say something, and I don't mean it in a mean way. It's not about you. It's not. Too often we make church about us, about what we want, about what we get out of it. It's not about you. It's not about me. Right? When we swallow our pride and actually name what we need, and then when we also pay attention to the needs of those around us and recognize that, you know what, maybe God's actually going to use me. I'm going to tell y'all, we talked about direction last week. This ties in here. If you ask the question, how is God using me, and you don't know the answer, maybe you need to be looking at the needs around you a little bit more. Because God has a purpose for you. He does for all of us. And something that is important to God is important to Christ. Was community. So I don't know what needs you have this morning. But this is the place to share them. These are the people that will walk with you through those things. Not just stand off in a distance, but hurt with you, cry with you. Right? That's what this community is for. And so today, let's make it our goal as we move forward to be open about what we need and to meet the needs of each other, to really do life together. Because that's what this is all about. So whatever you need, whether it's prayers, if it's someone just to talk to, if you need to know what it looks like to be in relationship with Jesus, now's the time as we stand and sing.